this is psychic warfare, whatever. Anti-5G vampire tech, $600, page 1 of 2. You might have known that the British tried to microwave the silo to death from 1996 onwards. They ganked huge numbers of Northern Ireland Catholics with microwave, which is documented in the Daily Mirror Northern Ireland edition. The CIA agent that came to see me in 1997 told me how the UK was the world's worst gank state, where they slaughtered anyone who went against the deep state with microwave silent weaponry. And it's so deniable that you're being microwaved that if you say you are being microwaved, you're insane, so you must be locked up in a mental asylum where they can microwave you at close range in a Milosevic shell. This links back to Nebuchadnezzar and cooking victims in the Iron Bull slowly. So it's all biblical and simply the modern version of biblical torture for anyone who goes against the elite. One can see now why the Psylord built a steel room to make himself invulnerable to the British deep state attack. One can also see with the thousands of satellites over the train, the Pentagon, and now the Russians are doing massive weapon system deployment to use the Havana effect on yours truly. Luckily, the great Donald Trump has stepped in and banned the Americans from microwaving the Jewish Messiah. So it's only the Russian filth, the lowest form of scum, who are the Iranians' puppet master, that are desperately trying to death ray yours truly in the train. Best of luck with that, Putin. Who's going to be ganked first, you or the Iranians? Let's set up a total on that. Anyway, to continue, it hasn't worked on the Psylord, so they're desperately experimenting on monkeys to see why it hasn't worked on the Psylord. Unfortunately, while you were looked up in your own homes by the scamdemic, they put 5G death rays on every piece of street furniture, e.g. lampposts, in the Western world, and every building that they could possibly find. Likewise, they had to cut down all the trees which block the 5G radiation. So you see massive treeing all around you to allow fields of fire for these death rays. A UK microwave expert disclosed that MI5 are the greatest torturers in British history, and that their death rays can stop your heart and are in all the street lights, and only 4 watts will gank you. So the 5G is a death ray system that the council charge you to put up all around you. You simply live in an RF gank box where you're being fried every time you're exposed to these transmitters. And of course, if you've been kill-shotted, your 12-bar code allows GCHQ to fry you 24/7 in your home and wherever you walk around, so it's ganking on demand. The WEF's wet dream, the 4th industrial revolution of ganking. Now, if you listen to the experts, you'll find for the beam weapons to work, they need to be accurately targeting your brain or heart, so they need targeting data. Thankfully, the Western population have got their vaccine, which is all of the nano electronics for the targeting. So everyone in the Western world that's had the vaccine has a 12-digit Bluetooth return signal when we're broadcast with RF radiation, and as you can see, the amount of information in this 12-digit code is enormous. So GCHQ or the NSA in Fort Meade can simply fire the 5G beam weapons at you accurately, because you're targeted with all of the coordinates, tags, and they know exactly who you are because you've got the mark of the beast. So anyone on their kill list or gank list can be slowly or quickly beam weaponed to get the so-called Havanna syndrome or worse. Also, if you've got a mobile phone, the mobile phone acts as a targeting designator, and the beam weapon can then lock onto this phone and then zap you in that location. Since I never had the vaccination or a phone, they had to use little mobile tags which looked like angel dust, and had to sprinkle them over me or spray them on me with sticky medium 24/7 to get any sort of kill designation on yours truly, which meant I avoided idiots with backpacks, and of course outside of my Matrang apartment, all of the Russian scooters with huge storage lockers on the back, spraying out tags and bioweapon in the millions. So when I looked at my mask, which I always wear inland, you get these little tags covering them, and of course the red bioweapon of Staphylococcus aureus, which used to cover my mask to the gazoo. So you can see the Russians have been desperately trying to gank me, paid for by the Rothschilds. So we know that Russia is not the enemy of the West, it's totally controlled by the Rothschilds, and this is a controlled war between the West and Russia run by the Rothschilds. Continuing. So you can see now that this 5G network is there for the silent ganking, and you don't even know it's happening. I'm making a bit of a rant here. I'll just get through that. You can look at the rant on the website. I'm just making this nice and sanitary for YouTube. Now this means that you're surrounded by 5G death rays on every lamppost and building which was put up while you had the lockdowns, and you're simply being fried to death every time you wait outside of your home. If you're in your home, the smart meters and any 5G emitters on lampposts or buildings outside are frying you within your home. It's cooking time for the population. Now, 4G was microwave, which caused heating effects and destroys your DNA. If, like myself, you're in Vietnam and not accessible to CIA microwave or MI6 microwave or Mossad microwave or Russian microwave death squads. I remember I've been in Hong Kong for 3 months and the Chinese treated me like gold. It was only foreigners, Russians and the Brits who were trying to spray me with bioweapon and tags for their satellites over Hong Kong. So we know the Chinese and Vietnamese are the good guys. By their work shall you know them. Anyway, to continue. So if you're in any country that can fry you to death from neighbouring buildings, your dog meat, and of course if you're in Vietnam or Hong Kong, they have to use satellites. But of course if they use satellites, that means they have to tag you. I've got no kill shots, and when I was in Hong Kong, I used to pick the tags off my jacket, which showed them up brilliantly, and in Vietnam I simply walk around shirtless and things don't stick to skin because it's electrostatic sticking. So in Vietnam and Hong Kong, the death ray satellites were useless. Anyway, to continue, that's why you'll see thousands of satellites flown over the Trang in constant arcs, launched by Elon Musk and the Department of Defense, all having zero effect. So that's why the Pentagon is experimenting on more weapon systems to try and enhance the Havana effect. That only works if you're carrying a mobile phone or kill-shotted. Now, I always thought it was the Americans trying to do me in a Trang, but now I found out it was the Russians who have been launching satellites over the Trang and shipping in bioweapon and tags in huge amounts via their ship resupply to their military personnel in Vietnam who've got a military alliance with. So they've been screwing the Vietnamese and running a huge operation with thousands of Russian filth to try and get me, because of course we know Russia is the Rothschild Empire and the Russians are totally controlled by the Rothschilds. So the war in Ukraine against the West is a totally controlled war where both sides are controlled by the Rothschilds, and Putin is just a Rothschild puppet because he's so scared of getting assassinated. The Rothschild oligarchs in Russia own him and have him on a lead, and he's only allowed to live as long as he obeys the Rothschilds. So you can see the big con, it's wonderful. Anyway, to continue. So we see that the technology is not affected with millimeter wave being blocked by buildings. A microwave gets blocked, so they have to use RF, FM frequencies around 200 megahertz to penetrate the building which you're in and try and fry you from within the building. Luckily, I'm way down in the building, so they've got layer after layer after layer of concrete, and they've been absolutely worthless in their effects. And a steel room in the UK totally works against all forms of beam weapons, but all of you have got smart meters which simply death ray you in your own home and can beam you 24/7 to gank you. And of course, if you got kill shotted, they can fire at you in your own home 24/7. Isn't it wonderful? 5G will target you wherever you go in your 15-minute cities, ganking you like Nebuchadnezzar's victims in the Iron Bull. Biblical ritual for all of the Western filth who are inoculated, carrying a mobile device which simply is the target locator, so the beam weapons will fire and fry you, all powered by your mobile phone. So since the British tried to microwave him to death since 1996, it's proven he's immune to this death rain. So wouldn't you like to know how to survive being fried alive by the 5G and all the other death rays that beam upon you 24/7? Wouldn't this be worth tens of thousands of dollars? But since Asylum is a saint, he's giving it to you for $600, as he's a good guy and not at all human. And remember, July the 3rd, you can't get another service. So buy now, or forever hold your peace. The key to death-proofing yourself from this 5G gank technology in your 15 minutes Holocaust camps is never ever to carry a mobile phone on you. Likewise, if you've had your gank shot, you've now got your 12-digit barcode via Bluetooth designator, so that 5G can fire at you 24/7, and you are fucked. all done of your own free will. So the vaccinated had tags which allowed them to be zapped, not only by the 5G, but by satellite death rays from space. If I'd had the Fauci gank shots, the satellites would have fried me alive. Because there's nothing to lock onto, and they're simply beaming a huge area with harmless garbage. Remember, the beam has to be collimated into a death ray to harm you. So all the Russian satellites can do is fire in the general area and get nowhere. The Western satellites used to fire, but since, of course, me and Mossad are best friends and have looked in the reality of Iran getting turned into the Stone Age, turned to glass, I'm Israel's best friend, and since Israel controls America and the West, we're good to go. Britain, of course, with the Rothschilds, and the Rothschild rape baby had to be brought into line, and of course we've had the Iranian Cobalt 60 drone threats to the Israeli embassy, so the British know that London will be covered with Cobalt 60 from Iranian drones if they get in the way of Iran getting totally glassified and, of course, try and raise the hand against the great Sidled, who is best friends with Mossad and the Jewish Messiah. So, to continue, the 5G interferes with the millimeter wave between cells to give you turbo cancers and totally destroys your immune system and all of the cellular interactions within your body, turning it all into a chaotic mess, producing a host of different diseases. So the 5G interferes with the millimeter wave via the carbon graphene that's in it, that turns 5G into millimeter wave and vice versa. And your cells contact each other via millimeter wave, so it basically disrupts your whole system and you go cancerous. That's why all the millennials are getting turbo cancers. I would be crying for them, except I'm not madly keen on millennials. Are you, Cameron? That's why the Sidled recommends you buy this service, which works on the quantum level, to obviate all of this technology. Because you use time density, cause generator, to make sure that the matter over matter interaction effect from the 5G and death rays produce the effect of making you healthier. So that the more they beam you, the healthier you become. And if you don't believe me, come to Nha Trang and see yours truly, who is fit and healthy after getting beamed by Russian death rays 24/7 all around Nha Trang, and is fit as a fiddle. The proof is in the pudding. The anti-5G vampire tech, $600, page 2 of 2. Thank God for that. to make yourself invulnerable to this ganking technology, it's highly recommended that you get away from all the 5G transmitters, have no smart meters in your location, move away from the cities to country places where there is no 5G around you, or like myself, a built steel room where it's irrelevant what's around you. Now the Kozyrev time density cause, which is the 5G ganking you, which is Kozyrev time density effect, can be seen to be something that you never guess in a billion years. In order for this 5G RF beam weapon to gank you, they have to gank you. It's quite simple. When you look at Soviet psychic warfare, Kozyrev time density means there has to be time density lost to produce Kozyrev time density effect, so that the 5G weapons have to be linked with time flow to a future where they gank you to produce the time density effect, to torture, gank and damn you in order to work. It is very simple to understand once you understand Soviet psychic warfare. Now this means that the weapons, which of course are all RF radiation, which link to the 5 dimensions, are 5D weapon systems and must link to death of you to work in the first place, to cause and effect, to torture, gank and damn you in the past. This is so far beyond your intellect, you don't even understand what I'm talking about. Now Sergeyev's sensors automatically link you to the 5th dimension, so the negative PC in the service looks to the 5th dimension, so the RF weapon, be it 5G or 4G or death satellites flying over you, change time flow time density, cause of death, which they need to do to produce the time density effect to torture, kill, gank you. All the RF weapons, which include 5G, have to produce Kozyrev time density cores to produce the time density effect to torture, gank and damn you. But this Kozyrev time density cause has to be your death by the weapons, which have to link to the 5 dimension with your death in the first place, in order to cause the effect on you to torture, kill, gank and damn you in the past. So if you can interrupt this flow, you're immune to their weapon systems. Now link all the 5G, 4G RF weapon systems to the archetypes of everything that 5G, 4G and the satellites meant to gank, which of course is the silo. So 5G, 4G weapon systems need to cause the death of the Side-Lord, have caused the death of his enemies because he's still alive and they got into a zero-sum game, which is the rules of time density. Time density causes death by the RF technology when they try and beam with their thousands of satellites flying over yours truly, get into a zero-sum game where the satellites can be used to dump the cause of the Side-Lord's death into all that he wishes to target, so that the satellites are actually the modality by which he can use the fifth dimension to use the energy from the satellites to beam everyone on his naughty list. So the time density death energy, instead of hurting yours truly, is used by the Side-Lord to use the Kozyrev time density effect to empower him, and the EM radiation boosts him, and the negative effects can then be downloaded by the satellite network across the planet into all of his naughty list. This service is vital to becoming immune to these death rays, so the negative PC accepts the negative torsion field from the RF radiation broadcast and broadcasts it to his naughty list, and the clear PC produces the time density effect, so the more RF radiation you are exposed to, the more the effect is to boost your monster of the id and upload your meta powers and I squared if you're the monster of the id service to make you into a forbidden planet monster of the id, which takes over the planet, which as death is dumped into the targets, use the energy to boost you, and you get the monster of the id service to boost you to forbidden planet levels of super powers where you can take over an entire planet. Very simple, very easy, and this technology the Side-Lord has used in 1986 to keep him not only healthy, but to make him the Side-Lord who is now torturing, ganking and damning the entire naughty list. So the death rays simply become food, and the more it's beamed at you, the more you get empowered, because it's 5-dimensional energy to raise your 5-dimensional frequency. So the more satellites that beam you, the more powerful you become. So, to use, you simply have to have the 2 PCs on you, and it's done automatically as we've thrown all revelatory research into the mix, so that simply carrying the crystals around with you solves the problem. Remember, the Americans, now the Russians, have been trying to fry me with death rays, and instead of which I become more and more powerful, and they of course suffer the consequences of their death rays. So with this technology it's quite simple. You simply need to carry around your clear and dark crystal. The dark crystal and clear crystal simply convert all the radiant energy beamed at you which of course is 5-dimensional, because light is gravity in the 5th dimension, to raise your power levels, and the negative PC is then used to make sure that the effects that whoever's trying to beam you, be it the Americans and now the Russians, at yours truly, goes into the naughty list. So the more the satellites beam you, the higher your power level and the more your target list gets destroyed. And of course, if you're in a super 5G zone like the UK and the West, especially the UK, you're in 7th heaven, because with this technology, all the radiant energy that's beamed at you simply charges you and is converted by the clear and dark PC, which you must carry on you 24/7 if you live in a kill zone, so that it raises your frequency. Once you've got Charlie Kirk service, so you can have your frequency raised, to feed you, so the technology that's supposed to gank you makes you a higher and higher frequency, and the dark PC uses all of the radiant frequencies directed at you to enable you to gank anyone on your target list. So this means the billionaires and trillionaires have built the system to gank them. And we've explained with the digital avatars, now 100%, so every billionaire and trillionaire and all their family and children are simply 100% controlled and run. So every billionaire and trillionaire is irrelevant. They're all run by AI quantum computers, and the quantum computers are irrelevant because there's no quantum computer multiverse stuff. They're locked into the God Emperor's reality, where the God Emperor has taken all the light. They're in the Matrix, but he simply makes the Matrix or the Matrix entities real, so they're in his torture domain. So it's simply the quantum gun, where everyone that tried to kill the victim in the quantum gun has lost their reality, and he lives, and everyone that tried to gank him with a quantum gun has given their free will, so their entire lives are totally controlled by the victim, who's now the God Emperor, so that their entire lives are controlled, and that their cause of death is the ganking that they agreed to by trying to gank him with the quantum gun experiments. All done so the God Emperor controls everything, and we become a Nordic race, which is quite simple. If you got the entire race that's given light by the Nagel man and Nagel woman, then for a Nordic race, the Nagel man simply takes all the light back to make sure that the entire race is totally slaveware, and AI and the digital avatars make it child's play. The Nagel women, of course, manifest this all, and you make sure the Nagel women, you've got 2 of them, for all the ganking, Miley and Katy Perry, and for all the upload you've got Taylor and Dua. And of course you want Dua and Taylor to gank themselves by marrying CKs, committing self-suicide, and you want of course the Freeload, the ones that do all the ganking, to have married CKs like Russell Brand and Hemsworth, piece of shit, all done, and the only thing that needs to complete the process is Dua marrying her fuckwit and Taylor marrying the other fuckwit to lock the entire race into being simply slaveware of the God Emperor, who has joined the Nordic races. So everything that's done by the human race is simply slaveware, and the God Emperor is the only one of importance, has joined the Nordic civilizations, and since we are bred to be the ultimate, the mad, bad love-hate by the interdimensionals, we are the peak of Nordic civilizations, and Nordic civilizations hate good, hate giving away free will, while interdimensional civilizations love evil, reptiloids, insectiles, and greys. So as you see, the human race has been taken over, and it's now under my tutelage, and Iran and Russia are going to be utterly destroyed. Why? Because I hate the so-called good. The good of the Iranians, the good of the Russians. And if you think either of those races are good, you're as mad as David Icke, Russell Brand, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and the rest of the cunts.